Most of the time, you're spoiled for choice with things to do in Thailand. It's what makes the country so popular for overseas visitors and as a place to live. But there are a few things that may be worth avoiding, despite being available, during your time in the land of smiles. Here's the Thaiger's list of potential do's and don'ts. But first, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook page and keep up to date with everything happening in Thailand. Every year, about 30 to 50 people drown along Phuket's west coast alone, mostly in the wet season with the southwestern monsoon kicking up the waves, washing onto the island's Andaman coast beaches. Krabi, Khao Lak, Bang Na, Trang and Southern Islands also have their share of drownings and near misses each year. Many of the popular beaches are patrolled, but plenty of others aren't. For the Gulf of Thailand coastal areas in Hua Hin Samui and other southern Gulf beaches, the big waves are usually later in the year, from October to December. You get off the plane, catch your passenger van to your hotel, check the minibar and then head out to find the nearest motorbike hire shop. There are hundreds around the main tourist spots anywhere in Thailand. In most cases, a passport will suffice for ID, but never let your passport out of your sight, even when they're taking a photocopy of your passport front page. The roads in Thailand are some of the most dangerous in the world. If you're under 30 years old, male, and riding a motorbike, your chances of having an accident are astonishingly high. Have you ever ridden a motorbike before? Probably not. Do you have a motorbike driver's license? Chances are slim. Were you taken for a short test to see if you can ride or handle a motorbike? Doubtful. Does your travel insurance cover you if you've had an accident without having a valid motorcycle driver's license? I bet it doesn't. Bottom line, if you don't have a motorbike driving license, have never driven a motorcycle, or have been drinking, just don't hire a motorbike in Thailand. Just don't. You can see reptiles, birds, crocodiles, tigers, dolphins, and plenty of other animals. There are hundreds of shows where the animals are performing for tourists. Most of these aren't official zoos and usually cater for one type of animal. But is it okay to visit these shows? Well, in Thailand, most of these attractions are all licensed to operate under Thai law. The question as to whether you should visit is up to you. Tigers of all wild beasties are not born to sit half drugged up in chains to have tourists patting them for selfies. Tigers are hunters and can inflict fatal injuries with a single swipe if you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Many of Thailand's zoos are not up to international standard, and like the elephant rides and tiger shows, have gone out of fashion with many Western tourists. But animals for entertainment is still a popular concept for many Asian and Eastern European tourists. It's a cultural thing. The Thai zoos come up for constant criticism, especially on platforms like TripAdvisor, where pictures of poor conditions, lonely and skinny animals keep getting attention. Riding an elephant in Thailand is just one of those things some tourists have on their bucket list. There are still many elephant camps where you can still see these wondrous mammals and, if you want, ride on their back through the forests. Generally frowned upon by some Western tourists, it's still hugely popular in Asia, and all the camps do a roaring trade, especially the ones in the tourist hotspots. The problem with Thailand's elephants is vexed with a well-cared-for pachyderm living up to 60 years. They used to work in the rainforests as beasts of burden, but that work has now dried up with the banning of logging in most parts of Thailand, so the elephants and their mahouts have gravitated towards the cities and the tourist industry to make a living. But elephants require a lot of food. There are now new elephant sanctuaries and retirement parks opening up around the country. They provide a more natural environment for humans and elephants to interact. This is mostly important in tourist hotspots like Bangkok, Pattaya, Chiang Mai, Samui or Phuket. There are variations with taxis and public transport options. Some locations do it better than others. Pattaya, for example, has the excellent Baht bus, where you hop on and off and pay the driver 10 baht. Bangkok too is generally taxi-friendly, except that the traffic can be hideous around the city's tourist traps. Meanwhile, getting a taxi or tuk-tuk to go anywhere around Phuket is expensive compared to anywhere else in Thailand. Your best bet, if and when you're going to use a taxi or tuk-tuk, is to negotiate the fare before you get in. By all means, try and bargain, but make sure there's a firm understanding with the driver about the price before he turns the key. By law, all taxis in Thailand are meant to use a meter. In Phuket, it never happens. In other parts of Thailand, the meters appear to work a lot better. Must be the southern humidity. Now, grab car or grab bike are new alternatives and generally provide a more reliable experience. Don't sign anything in Thailand without getting it checked over by a trusted and qualified Thai lawyer or advice from a Western lawyer. You're conducting business in a foreign country, in a foreign language, and there are thousands before you who have fallen foul of hastily or poorly prepared legal documents. Even if you're signing a basic rental lease, get it checked by people who know the ropes of the Thai legal system. Check, 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 and then check again. Police in Thailand are generally poorly paid, and there's a generation of police who still work their way up the system, buying higher positions in the police ranks so they can get a larger proportion of the tea money, that's bribes, that are still rife in the system. With all that said, if you get stopped for a minor indiscretion, not wearing your helmet or carrying a valid license with you, etc., just pay up and go on your way. Yes, you are feeding the pyramid of corruption, but your other option is not paved with happiness. If you decide to ramp up the situation by insisting that you speak to the superior or go to the police station, you'll usually come off second best. In a more serious situation, like a traffic accident or where someone's been injured, you're best advised to keep your cool and insist that a member of the tourist police or a consular official come to the scene before you do anything. At least make sure you call them before agreeing to anything. Thai police are the frontmen of a system that can get you into a mountain of trouble, unexpected costs, or jail if you don't play your cards right. It's hot and humid and you've come to Thailand for a swim. You've seen photos of bar girls in skimpy hot pants and size 2 small singlets. You're used to Western values where topless bathing is acceptable. Forget all this, you're in Thailand, which is a deeply conservative country when it comes to what you wear and where you wear it. There are plenty of double standards when it comes to this issue, and you only really learn the subtleties after living here for a few years. The Thais will generally tolerate you wandering around in skimpy singlets and shorts in tourist zones, but you don't have to wander too far from the tourist hotspots before the idea of acceptable clothing changes quite quickly. This becomes acutely apparent when it comes to visiting temples or anywhere there are images of members of the Thai royal family or Buddha. The same applies for public buildings. If you're in any doubt about what the dress code is in any particular situation, just see what the locals are wearing and follow their lead. Visa rules and immigration laws in Thailand are quite tight, and you'd be well advised to keep on top of your visa status whilst in the country. You're also advised to carry either your passport or a copy of the front page and visa page anytime you're roaming around the country. If you happen to be stopped as a foreigner, the police will likely want to check your passport and visa details. There are fines for overstaying your visa, and you can be detained, deported, and blacklisted if you've run up too much time without a visa. If you're in any doubt, either head to your nearest immigration office or contact a qualified visa agent. But we'd suggest you get a recommendation from a friend before dealing with the many visa agents advertising their services on the internet. Despite our list, there are still many exciting adventures awaiting you in Thailand. and plenty to keep you busy if you live here. We have lots of top 10 lists at thetiger.com, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest news and information about Thailand 7 days a week.